Welcome to the Sacred Healing Podcast, where the old is new, the ancient is innovative, and the forgotten is remembered. We believe that sacred healing is your birthright. Join us on each episode as we uniquely, authentically, and mystically dive into the bold and vulnerable life of many magical humans. From breath, spirituality, shadow work, and all things in the esoteric realm of healing, we don't leave any stone unturned on this bold journey of growth as we start to explore the remembrance of what it means to be human. So take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and let's get sacred.
Hello, sacred humans and sacred family. Today I am talking to Jen Toro. She is a spiritual life coach, and she uses a wide variety of different practices with her clients that are needing direction and seeking purpose in their life from a spiritual perspective. She uses breathwork, and she's trauma informed, and she also works for Feya Health, a psychedelic-assisted therapy group based out of New York City. She is the client concierge who acts as the connector for the client and therapist and the psychedelic therapy. She's certified in transformational nutrition, and she's been coaching clients towards the best version of their physical selves for over 8 years. She's also a mother of 2 boys, ages 15 and 18, and she's a devoted wife of 21 years to her amazing husband, Carlos. Shout out, Carlos. She's an adventure seeker, and she's also flown planes and jumped out of planes and backpacked in Central America and has sat with several different sacred medicines. And she works each and every day to be a better version of what she was yesterday. Her heart is dedicated to helping others, and she's deeply involved with a program called Miracles for Kids, which she's been working with for close to 10 years. So she's just a multifaceted human. So please enjoy this conversation with Jen Toro. Welcome to the Sacred Healing Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. I'm chatting with Jen. Oh my gosh, I love your mug, by the way. It's plain, but yours is like
Cheers.
super shadowy and dark. I love that.
Dear, this is
So
early, sister.
I know we're up early. We've got like all the things we need for drinks. I've got I'm trying this new tea, Mina tea. Not sponsoring us, but it's actually like really delicious. It's a black tea with orange blossom in it. It's like so good. But anyway, today we have Jen, and I met Jen in a community of really beautiful spiritual human beings, and we connected. And I'm just really inspired by what she's doing in her life. She's got a lot of things going on, and a lot of what she's doing in the psychedelic assisted therapy realm is really, really important for the planet at this time, because a lot of people are not only experimenting, but people are going through big wake-up calls or awakenings where they need some help. And Jen is really trauma informed, and she does breath work. She has one-on-one coaching. She does a lot of things that I think are really needed in the world. And so I'm screaming it from the rooftops. Love Jen, and really excited for everyone to get to know her. So welcome, Jen, to the podcast. Really excited to have you today.
Thanks, Jessica. Thanks so much for having me as well. I was like super stoked when you reached out and pleasantly surprised, and I'm so glad to be here. And if it was the old Jen and it was this time of day, you would probably get my evil twin. But since the evolution, I've come a long way in the mornings. Trust me. You can ask my whole family.
I love that. Yeah, I've like been a morning person for a while, so mornings are my jam. I like taper in the afternoon. That's where like my evil twin will come out.
I feel you. I need that 30-minute nap. Definitely definitely need the nap in the afternoon. If I don't get it, then it's like, oh.
Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's really exciting to just have you. You and I have like always just been able to like talk and flow, just kind of meeting each other, knowing nothing about each other, but getting really deep really fast. And so I want to kind of just give the listeners a little bit about your background, like how you got to where you are today, what adversity you faced in life that like led you to these sacred healing practices, specifically with plant medicines, and other practices that you've kind of drawn yourself to in the breathwork realm, in the sound healing realm, in the talk therapy realm. So I'd love for you to give us a little bit of a background on kind of how you got where you are today and what made you want to be this trauma-informed assisted basically practitioner who helps people with not only journeys but integration.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest. It really, really, I feel it. Thank you so much. Man, that just seems like a whole nother life ago. And it really does. And it's been a really long journey, you know. I'm not quite sure where to start, but yeah, so I grew up in a really small town, central Pennsylvania. It was called Selinsgrove, and there was about 5,000 people. So, you know, our graduating class, I think, was 103. Everybody knew everybody. The culture was, it was sweet, a sweet culture to grow up in, you know, just so simplistic. The country, we didn't really have a lot of choices of things to do for fun. So when the carnival came around every year, we were like super stoked, you know, teasing our hair up. You know, born in 77. So like just do the math there. It was like the 80s. We're like had Aquanet, you know, the whole jam, get our jean jackets on with like the little pins and the whole jam. And that was like the thing we had to do for the year. Like that was our fun. So yeah, I grew up there. And then when I was 18, you know, we all think that our life is what it's going to be. We all think like, you know, this is what I'm going to do, and this is where I'm going to be. And I just thought that that was where I was going to be. And I had a boyfriend. I had was supposed to be going to Bloomsburg University in Pennsylvania. It's a very small university, but yeah, I was working at Denny's. Yeah, life was so different then.
Big
But
shout
it
out to
was
Denny's.
Grand Slam, baby. It was like $1.99 then, no joke. So yeah, my mom and my dad. So my father was diagnosed bipolar, and you know that stemmed down from his side of the family. So there was a lot of mental health um, issues, I guess. I don't like to call them issues, challenges on that side of the family. So early on, I knew that there was something in my brain that just was hard to deal with, just some of my thoughts and some of my feelings. And just, I always felt like I was wearing a mask, always, 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 like as a young age. So my dad liked to move around a lot. I think by the time I was 18, I moved around at least 10 times. So 2 different states, you know, 10 different homes, 5 different schools. So growing up, I never thought it was difficult walking into like second grade, fourth grade, sixth grade, like the new kid. But looking back on it, I'm super grateful for that experience, just that I'm able to connect pretty quickly to people. And I think it was because of that. So, but yeah, my dad, when I was 18, decided we're going to move across the country. So, you know, of course, I hated my parents at that point. I was like, I have a boyfriend. My friends are here. I'm going to college. I'm super excited. I'm staying here for the rest of my life. Hallelujah. I got out of there. I love that town. I just went back for the first time in like 30 years, but not a place to live for the rest of your life. In my opinion, I wouldn't be the person I am if I was still there. I don't think. I know so, actually. So yeah, I moved to Arizona. Culture shock, boom, you know, just, you know, going to like Arizona State, all these different cultures, all these different people. It's such a big town, so much diversity. It was great. It was so great. I mean, like within 3 months, I was telling that guy I was dating, like, yeah, he actually followed me out to Arizona. And I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work out. And I've always loved the Spanish culture, the Hispanic, like Latin, Latino. I loved Spanish growing up in school. It was my favorite subject. So I'm like, whoa, there's so many hot Latino guys out here. That's not in Pennsylvania at all.
Definitely
So,
not. I can attest to that because I'm in Massachusetts and it's like pretty rare. Actually, there's like way more of a Brazilian community out here, not really a Mexican community. But yeah, I totally attest to that. Not a ton of diversity.
no.
Yeah.
So, we had a couple little sprinkles of Puerto Ricans back in PA, or maybe some um, what do they call them? International students, I was always like, hey, who's coming in this year? Anyway, so no, I get to Arizona and I was just still working at Denny's, transferred like immediately. And I was like, yeah, this is great. Loved talking Spanish to the Mexican cooks, loved it. Like I was in my jam, man. And so I don't know. Shit just happened really fast, to be honest with you. Like just life was like a whirlwind there. Just the clubs, just the lifestyle. I worked at Denny's for like 3 months. This like nightclub owner comes into my shift on a graveyard and he's like, why are you working at Denny's? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, here's my card. Call me on Monday. I'm like, all right. I started working in the nightclub scene and it was so much fun. And that's when all of the partying happened, that's when I got introduced to just the craziness of everything. But it was fun. It was really good.
Fill in the blank. Yeah.
Fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you met your partner as well. Is that right?
I met my husband in 1998, 99-ish. We were out. Yeah, it was like clubbing. And we've been together 21 years. It's crazy. There's my babies. There's my family right
Congratulations, by the way. And I've actually met your husband before too. And he's just so fabulous and so just like kind and has a loving heart. And I love that you guys have been together for so long. I've known my husband for like over 15 years, and it feels strange to know somebody that long who's seen like multiple versions of who you are, but still like loves every single one of them. So it's just really unique to have that deep of a partnership. And so, yeah, shout out.
It's so nice and it's so rare these days. And I'm just so grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful for him. He's like, honestly, like so emotionally stable. And I feel like hallelujah, because I don't know, man, through all of the trials and tribulations and turmoil with my healing, I don't know who else would have been there and put up with it all. So oh God, yeah, I'm getting all the feels on that right now. Yeah, so we met and we've been together for 21 years. And yeah, I just right after we got together, I got into the corporate world and literally we got married. Everything happened so fast. I got pregnant a few years later. I always thought I was going to be that working mom. Like my parents worked over 60 hours a week. I was what they called a lock-key child, right? Is that what they call it? A lock-key? Yeah. Come home from work or come home from school, get the key, open up the door, feed myself. I mean, I was like running amok. I could do whatever I wanted to do. My brother left for the military when I was 12 years old. And so I was living my best life back there in PA. Like, I don't know. I had no supervision. Let's just put it that way. No parental supervision. So that's a whole nother story. Yeah. So, where was I? Yeah. So I got pregnant. I thought I was always going to be that working mom, just what I knew. And so after a few months, I went back to work. I was breastfeeding at the time. It lasted 3 weeks. I'm like, I can't do this. I was crying every single day away from my sweet Sebastian. And thankfully, my husband's business kind of took off at that moment, and I was able to stay home for them. And I was home for them for over 15 years. So that's such a blessing, and I'm so grateful for that. And but that also was part of my healing because I definitely lost myself in that whole beautiful experience. It was a beautiful experience, but definitely lost my own identity, I feel like, in what made me happy. And other than being a mom, of course, that makes me so happy, but just what fills my cup outside of being a mother, and having a different identity other than just a mother and a wife and a homemaker, or whatever they call them these days. I don't know.
Betty Homemaker. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear that, and I think a lot of women specifically can relate to that experience. I think it's wonderful that you were able to stay home with your sons. It's two boys, right?
Two boys, yeah.
Boys.
Two
Yeah.
boys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And like you also married like your Mexican hottie sweetheart. So so there we go. But yeah, I appreciate that so much. And specifically like saying, how it's like it's such a blessing, but also like there was that part of you that you were like, I need to connect to something for me too. And so what was that for you? What did you find in that?
Yeah, so that was really the part, the start, I guess, of just my, I don't know if you want to call it an identity crisis. It really was. Like, I just remember years and years going by where I just would like break down to my husband or just internally and just be like, who the fuck am I? Like, my kids are getting older now. Like, what do I do with my life? Like, what do I do? And my husband would make like he was always amazingly supportive, like always, but he's like, why don't you find a hobby? Okay, let me just get my camera and go shoot some birds, in the wilderness. Like, what do you mean find a hobby? Like, I mean, he was trying, he was doing his best, but yeah, no, that was a struggle, and I really, really had a hard time at that moment, just trying to figure out who the fuck I was, outside of being a mom, and what I really wanted to do with my life, and so I think the start of the turn was starting to give back to the community. That really was the start of filling my cup. And I got involved in an organization, a nonprofit here in California called Miracles for Kids. And I've been involved for about 10 years. So that really, really was great. I love it. I love the nonprofit. I love what we do.
Hello, sacred humans. Quickly, I want to share with you something I've added into my daily rituals that has me buzzing, and that is Rise Mushroom Coffee. Rise entered my life through my Instagram algorithm that obviously knows what products I like, and I gave it a try, and just wow, it has amazingly delicious flavor. Not only this, they also have a mushroom matcha powder. Phew, mind blown. And they're filled with superfoods and super mushrooms. What I like about Rise is that they use 100% organic ingredients, and their mushroom farms are located in California. If you've always wanted to try mushroom coffee but haven't yet pulled the trigger, this is your moment. And there is zero risk because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're interested in the deliciousness of Rise mushroom elixirs, head to the show notes and you will find a link for 20% off your first order. Or simply use the discount code Jessica, all caps, at checkout. That's JESSICA, all caps, at checkout. And now, let's get back to our amazing episode of the Sacred Healing Podcast. Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, just to kind of comment on going into something that's like bigger than yourself, with like, any type of work that's like charity or philanthropy, things like that, where you're kind of like giving service for like nothing in return, right? It's so special because your one of our basic needs is contribution, and that's like contributing to the collective and to the whole. And so I appreciate that that's where you kind of started on this journey of like, what do I really want to do? Like what's really going to help me? Um, and I think too, when you were going and like through and navigating this period of your life where you're like, identity crisis or whatever we want to call it, what were like the sacred practices that you used or that you found along your journey to kind of like healing yourself? What were some of the things that were like really called to you?
Yeah. I think before the dark night of the soul that happened for me in 2018, we can work up to that. But I think fitness was the first thing. Fitness was huge. I mean, I hit an all-time weight high after my second son. I was close to 200 pounds and just feeling horrible, not eating right, not taking care of myself, and just everything was being a mom and just, just surviving at that point. They were little, my second one was a lot of work. We always say, and I love him so much, but we're like, if he was the first, he probably would have been an only child. He was so hard, but he's so wonderful now. Like he's just such a great kid. But fitness was the first thing that really got myself out of my head into my body. And so I had this wonderful idea back in 2012 to sign up for a fitness competition. I'm like 200 pounds, 31% body fat. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. Not going to even basically, I was like social queen at that point. I mean, other than being a mom, the weekends I was like throwing parties and, gatherings, and that's what I had to look forward to. I was always the party planner. So I tell all my friends, look, don't fucking call me for 9 weeks. I'm not going to party with you. I'm not going to host. I'm like, I need to do this. Like, I need to get something back. And if it's not my heart and my soul and my mind, I need at least my body back, right? So yeah, I did it, and it was crazy. It was such a journey. It was so hard. The diet, the working out, the cardio, all the preparation, but I had zero expectations going in other than I just wanted to come out better version physically than I was. And it was a pretty awesome um outcome. Actually won the whole damn show. Got the sword and the whole thing.
Whoa.
I mean, like that big sword. I have it hanging upstairs, no joke.
Oh my God. Well, that's like congratulations, because that's huge. And so during that process, did you have like a trainer or fitness coach, somebody that you were working with to help you kind of get through everything?
I did. I had a great trainer, a great nutritionist, a coach, the whole shebang. It actually led me to get into that business. And that was the beginning of Jen not being, Jen shifting from being a mom to Jen being a business owner. And that's, kind of started with the nutrition, the personal training, and dove into that world for quite a while. I would say 5 years or so. And it was beautiful at the time. I really loved helping other people just transform themselves and feel better about themselves. And I just realized after a few years that that just wasn't enough, and that it was fulfilling at the moment for what it needed to be, but it was also a very vanity based world, and a lot of placement on physical beauty. It just takes a toll on your emotional being, just trying to be that outside shell of perfection that just doesn't exist. So I saw lots of mental health. That was the start of just seeing mental health issues in that world, and myself included, so I was always comparing myself to that moment I was on stage, right? So always trying to keep that, and it just doesn't exist, and it's not sustainable at all. So
Right. Yeah.
it's just not.
And
So
it's more a focus on like, okay, it was the gateway for you. So you can sit and look and have so much gratitude for it. But at the same time, there's that body connection. But then, okay, now you're noticing like, okay, where's the mind connection? Where's the spirit connection? Where's the soul connection? Right. To have that like really like well-rounded access to the best version of you. And so it was kind of like started with that physical. And you mentioned you started to see some of the mental pieces coming in. People doing things for maybe wrong reasons, things like that, like vanity reasons in that world. And I think that a lot of worlds are like that too. A lot of communities that exist in some way where they're trying to get to something externally. What helped you connect more to like yourself? And like, when did you
yeah.
start to realize that you needed that deeper connection?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Yes, that's going to lead to some stuff. I had that business running. It was actually very successful. And my father got sick. He got cancer in 2005, the year my first son was born. And, he was killing the cancer game like for a long time, like just rolling with the punches. And I was daddy's little girl. My mom and I butt heads growing up, and that really played a huge part in my own healing and own identity and own self beliefs. Was just this shift in my self perception is just the repairment of my relationship with my mother. But yeah, I was daddy's little girl, and he got sick. And so it got pretty bad in 2014. I'm sorry, he passed away in, yeah, 2015. Yeah. So yeah, that was the shift. That was the shift. Like, I realized like, now what's going on? Like, how it was pretty horrible, actually. I was very self-absorbed during that time with the physical fitness world, and he was sick, and there was a lot of things that I've had to forgive myself on that, but I just felt like I could have been there a little bit better than I was at that moment because of my self-absorption and just my um yeah. So he passed away, and that's when it all started for me. It really did. That's when everything kind of really just, yeah, my life shattered, honestly. And it took 4 years for me to start the grieving process of his death. So I'm still rolling, man. I'm rolling. I'm doing great. My dad's in a better place. Everything's great. Everything's fine. Yeah, it definitely wasn't fine. And just 2014 leading up to 2018, when I started my spiritual awakening, was just a very slow, deep, dark, gradual towards the depths of hell for me. It really was. I would say that I started noticing my thoughts, my behaviors, my action, my lifestyle choices, really, really poor lifestyle choices, to the point where I had to forcefully make myself sober in 2019. It was bad. I was just numbing. I was numbing and sticking a band-aid on something that I didn't want to go through. I didn't want to go through his death. And at that moment, my mother and our relationship escalated to such a toxic place. And also with my brother, yeah, very toxic at that time. And was trying to navigate through that. And feelings of so much shame and so much guilt because of the things I could have done differently around the death of my father. And my mother verbalized all of that to me. So that just made it even more, you know, harder, I guess, just harder to deal with. So, yeah, I just decided in January of 2019, I'm like, I'm done, dude. Like, I'm done with this numbing. Let's just fucking go with it. Let's go with it now. What do we need to dig up? Because obviously I need some help here. Um, I met an amazing therapist at that moment. Her name was Tracy Reed. And she, she was just so outside the box with therapy. Like, hey, do you want to meet in the park? Want to meet in the park and walk? I'm like, yeah, so much better than sitting staring at you. And I didn't even know where to start. And she just really helped crack that open for me, you know? We had a spiritual awakening course for her clients. I mean, we learned it all. We learned it all. I'm like, inner child, what's that? What do you mean by that? Like, I don't know. Shadow work? What does that mean too? You know? Um, Talked about chakras and all this shit I have never heard of in my life. I'm like, what is all this woo-woo stuff? All I knew was every time I met her, I came out feeling better. Like, and I started understanding myself just a little bit more. And I started really just starting to forgive myself just a little bit more. And realizing that, yeah, you know, I'm not all the things that I thought I was. And I said to myself, and yeah, we all make mistakes and we all wish that we coulda, shoulda, woulda, but it's done and it's over. And we can just have grace on ourselves for what we didn't or didn't do, did or didn't do, you know? And the words that people say to us can be so harsh, even the ones that we love the most. And you know what? Sometimes those words have nothing to do with us and so much to do with what they're going through. And I just realized that. And I just realized that, yeah, my mom was probably suffering too. My mom probably had her own stuff that she's never went through and never like been able to heal. And that's okay. And she's doing her best. And I was able to mend that relationship with her. And we are the best of friends at this time. And I'm just so grateful for that. I call her like once, twice a day. And there's no more judgment. There's no more just toxicity. It's just beauty now. Her and I have such a beautiful relationship. And I'm super grateful for that spiritual awakening because that just really, it wouldn't have opened up my heart to even receive or even understand the whole situation and how it came full circle. And just, yeah, just forgiveness and love is just always the place to go to in situations that are the hardest, right? Just opening up your heart to those. So yeah, that's the start for me. That's the start of the healing.
Yeah, and processing grief is a really big starting point for some folks, and a lot of like folks kind of have a wake-up call through grief, but also probably have similar experiences of numbing, right? Trying not to process that type of grief is like so normal. And so having, grace in those moments to say, okay, maybe I wasn't ready at that time to process this. And then you ended up meeting somebody at the perfect time to help you kind of navigate through those feelings. And I also think that the way in which you were saying, oh, I just started to learn like a little bit more about myself every single time that I was there. It's that like growth, little like spurt of growth. And I think that in terms of dealing with those emotions and then also kind of being introduced to a lot of these different modalities, like call them spiritual modalities, but really like that inner child work, that internal family systems work, things like that have really brought healing for you and in your lineage, which is like epigenetically really amazing for your family, especially having histories of, bipolar disorder and things like that. You're doing the healing for the lineage, which is so amazing. That's awesome. And I know it goes much deeper than that. How that was the starting point for you of kind of working through some of these really deep forms of grief, loss, a lot of different emotions. When did you find those more psychedelic assisted ways to heal? What was kind of the catalyst for you to find some of those ways to heal?
Yeah. So, oh man, for as long as I can remember, I've pretty much tried, I want to say 3, 4, maybe close to 5 different synthetic antidepressants, always trying something different. There's these side effects. And then, the anxiety was unbearable sometimes. And, the Xanax and all this stuff that I was just so reliant on for such a long time. And I had a client. This is how I got introduced to mushrooms, or psilocybin. I had a client that, for me, she just seemed on the outside a very unhappy person. She was always complaining and just really we couldn't get her out of that mindset. This was back in the fitness world when I was doing personal training and nutrition. And she moved from Southern California to, where did she? Oregon. And I remember seeing her posts on Instagram and like, who is this person? She looks like a whole different person. Like, wow, what the heck? So I reached out to her and I was like, hey, how's it going, Leslie? And she's like, I'm doing great. Life is great. We're loving it here in Oregon. I'm like, I think this is around COVID. It was right before COVID. So like 2019. Yeah. And I'm like, so what else is new? I'm like digging because I know
You're
there's
like, what are
something
you
going on.
doing?
What are
is
you
it?
doing? What is this? Like, come on. Like, I'm seeing her videos and I'm like, who is this new person? She's like, well, my brother opened this, psilocybin company, I think out of Oregon. Yeah, out of Oregon. And I've been microdosing mushrooms for like the last 6 months. I'm like, tell me more, like what is going on? So yeah, she, immediately I got in contact. I was like, I am so freaking done with these meds. Like, I'm done. Like, they're not doing shit for me, right? And so I got, my first little shipment. I was scared as hell because I had tried them in the past recreationally. I'm like, this is not for me. Like, I would just get into my own head and I'd freak out and just, I remember we were on a camping trip one time and I went and hid in the motorhome. I was like, with the covers over my head. And my husband would come in and check on me. I'm like, I'm not okay. Leave me alone. I just like never like opened myself up to them. I was always in a state of paranoia and like somebody was going to come out and, some big monster was going to come get me. I never surrendered to it ever. So I was scared when I first got them, but she's like, dude, chill. They're just a microdose. Like, I'm like, well, what do I do? What do I do? She's like, okay, day one, still on my meds, by the way. She's like, day one, she goes, take the tiny little bit, put it in your coffee, like a half of a half of a half of a half. And within like 30 minutes, make sure you go outside. Just go outside and go for a walk or do something. Like, just chill for that day. Don't make any like huge plans. Don't go running around errands, nothing. Just go outside. All right. We live near all these beautiful canyons. So grateful for that. So I get my dogs and I'm still not feeling anything, but I'm like still in my head, like, what am I going to feel? Am I going to see unicorns flying around in the sky? Like, what is going to happen here?
Oh my God, unicorns in the sky would be amazing.
I didn't think that was going to be amazing at the time. I would be so freaked out, but I was
Whoa.
the controlling mind, right?
Yep.
And so I get my dogs, I go out for a little walk. I remember just that moment. I remember I was like walking the dogs and I just looked up at the like leaves, just the leaves. And I was like, oh, all right, all right. They look different right now. Wow. Yeah, they look nice. It wasn't like too much. It was just like a little bit greener. Maybe I saw them move a little differently, like not like tripping by no means, but just I noticed the small things. They were always there. There was nothing like different than a normal walk without psilocybin, but just noticed it in a different way, right? Oh God, people started walking by and I was like, good morning. How are you doing today? How's everything? I was social. I was like, not that I haven't always been social, but yeah, I've had my moments of social anxiety for sure in certain settings. But I was like, yeah, okay, this was kind of the missing link here. And that was the start right there. That was the start just to kind of shift the mindset for me a little bit, get off of the synthetics. I mean, within that week, I was like done, just done. Like there was no like tapering off of anything. It was just like done. And yeah, never went back there, thank God. And I'm so grateful for that little mushroom because it's made a huge impact on my life for sure.
Today, I want to share with you all the delicious cacao with a K drinking chocolate. Cacao is one of my favorite brands of ceremonial grade cacao and is a delicious addition to my morning routine. Cacao is jam-packed with delicious nutrients that work with my body to stay energized, connected, and focused. What I also love about cacao is that they are a nonprofit on a mission to protect the native heirloom strands of cacao in both Peru and Guatemala by giving back to the farmers and communities that make it available to us. If you are interested in cacao with a K, go to the show notes and you will find a link for 10% off your first order, or simply by using the discount code Jessica, all caps at checkout. That's JESSICA, all capital letters at checkout. So that was kind of the introduction into weaning off of the pharmaceuticals, going into more of the plant realm. And I know that you've, since kind of being on that journey and reverence for psilocybin, you've also gone on journeys with other plant medicines. I don't know if you wanted to kind of talk about or weave in what those journeys were and how they helped kind of deeper healing, because we were on this path of like, okay, kind of a identity situation going on, not really sure exactly what you wanted to do. And then you had this like fitness awakening. Okay, now I'm going to start a business. Now I want to be in coaching. But then it was like, okay, now the mind piece is missing. How do we integrate that? And so finding psilocybin and some of these other plant medicines that we're going to talk about, how did that like really help you round out your practice and also your coaching? Because I'm sure that it really had a deep impact on that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, after my dad passed away, I just realized that fitness world wasn't for me anymore. And I was just doing my own work, I guess, my own inner work. Again, I lost myself. I just did. I was like, okay, well, I know I'm not going back into the fitness world. That's just not happening. Like, now what do I do here? Again, like another identity crisis. And I think around that time I was turning 40. I don't know what is with that word, like that age, but as a woman, I mean, 40 is the new 20 now, right?
That's what they say. My husband's about to be 40 and I'm like he's like, I feel so young. I'm like, I know, man. I'm like, that's because it's like the new, like, you're gonna live to be like 100 something now. It's not the same anymore. We hope. His fingers crossed.
It's not, but I just feel like maybe 6 years ago it was such a I was like, oh, this is horrible. I'm turning 40. What am I doing?
There
Blah, blah,
was a
blah, blah,
stigma
blah.
around it for women specifically. I think there's been a huge stigma around it and still is. I'm in my
Yeah.
mid 30s and people are like, ooh, when are you going to have kids? Are you getting too old? Like, like I get those comments all the time. And it's like, no, I feel really good, actually, feeling great. So, yeah, I think that there still is a stigma around that. So I definitely
Why
relate.
do why does that happen though? Why do people do that? And it's mostly family. Like it's like you get engaged. Okay, when are you gonna get married? Okay, you get married. When are you gonna have kids? I'm like, stop. You have a kid. When are you gonna have another one? I'm like, oh my God, would you knock it off already? Like this is my life.
Yeah, I think part of it's like family in general. I mean, they care about you, but also it's like, it's this indoctrinated system that we live in where there are certain steps that people have been pre-programmed to take. And most likely, like our parents and their parents have gone through like similar kind of steps. And they're like, no, this is the next step. Why aren't you taking the next step? And so
Yeah.
anything outside of that realm becomes a little bit of the unknown. So yeah, I definitely feel that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, so part of that identity crisis, second identity crisis. I mean, how many do we have to go through in a lifetime? I feel like
You get
I f-
unlimited.
I get unlimited 3 pack or 10 pack for the price of one. That's horrible. Yeah, so my second identity, no, it was probably like by that time, like the fifth or sixth, but you don't know as a child and as an adult, an adolescent, a young adult, whatever. Um, Again, what am I doing? Okay, I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to feel better. But you know what? I'm making a really big shift, and life as I knew it looks so different now. Um, it's just socializing in the same way looked different. Socializing with the same people looked different. Doing the same things that we used to do that I used to enjoy looked different. My relationships were different. I was different. So it was like really another grieving process, to be quite honest with you. Like leaving that, not really leaving, but just like shifting what I found joyful and how I found enjoyment and connection. That was it, just connection at that point. And so some of those relationships kind of had to change. And that was really hard for me to just stop those patterns, I guess, and um kind of take a step back from certain relationships and friendships of over 20, 30 years, and it's not like I didn't love them. It just looked different. It really did. And so I knew that through the connections I did get through, my therapy and then also just meeting people in the spiritual world. I started going to all these different guided meditations, and I would go to other people's breath works, and I'm like, oh, I love this world. Like, this world is great. I feel so good with these people and doing these things. And so, yeah, that was a bit of a grieving process to shift there, but we're meant to grow, right? We're meant to grow. We're meant to evolve. And um, that was just a big evolvement. That was a big growth period for me, really, really big. And so it was beautiful, but it was also a little lonely. It was a little sad as well. And there was part of a grieving process there. So it was confusing. It was really confusing. It was difficult, but it was also, I knew in my heart, I could feel it. Like I wasn't going in the right direction. I was like, there was no like swimming against the tide. I was it was easy and it felt good. And my cup was always full when I honored myself in those ways. So yeah, that was the start. And that's what led me to do some deeper plant medicine experiences. Um, it all started back in 2020. My husband got a phone call, and it was from a mutual friend. Actually, not a mutual friend. It was a friend that we used to go to Burning Man with, and it was like in April of 2020. And we were quarantining in our lake house in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. We were there for like 3 months. It was freaking amazing. Like on the boat every day. I mean, I think I left my liver at the bottom of the lake then, though. Like just too much, too much, too much. I think everybody was kind of experiencing some debauchery in 2020 a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the quarantine was a weird period. People got
It
weird.
was weird. People got so weird. Yeah. So my Carlos got a phone call in April 2020, and it was a guy we knew from Burning Man, and it was like super random call. We're like, what is he calling for? Like, what's up? And he made some small talk, but at the end of the conversation, he said to my husband, he said, is there a possibility you have a sister, out there? And yeah, there was. And I'll make this part really short, just for his privacy and everything. But we got to meet a biological sister of my husband's, and it was at the end of 2020, and it was so beautiful. And she's such an amazing human. I'm so grateful to have met her, and she's in my life now. But I was already at like the start of my spiritual journey, and she was such an evolved soul. Like her and I just connected like so quick, and started talking about this thing called ayahuasca. And I'm like, what is that? What are you talking about? She started like trying to describe it to me, and this is before I even like Googled it or anything. And I'm like, I couldn't even spell it. I'm like, what is this? She started, we would share our stories, and we would just connect, and we would tell her about the psilocybin, and we'd just share some of our grievances and just some of our involvement. And she just told me like she'd sat in 80 ceremonies. She had been doing work for a really long time.
Oh.
I know, and I didn't even know anything about it. And I was like, it's not like she was pushing it on me. That's, nothing like that. She was just sharing because I felt like she felt like I needed to learn a little bit about it, not to do it, but just to maybe just learn, since I was already kind of on that path. And yeah, it piqued my interest. Let's just put it there. So that was the end of 2020. And I started Googling the shit out of it. I was one of those, like every YouTube, every book, every Google. And she's like, once she found out I was doing that, she was just stop doing that right now, please. Just like stop. I'm like, okay, well, now I'm interested. Like, now I'm interested. So what, like, tell me more, And she goes, well, we're going to sit in ceremony in Tulum in November of 2021. I'm like, okay. And I was scared shitless. I'm like, me and like psychedelics, I still wasn't there. There was no surrendering. I still had this very controlling mind that I needed everything in its place, and it had to be my way, really. Like I still wasn't there yet. And so it got close to like I think she sent me a message in July of 2021, and no, I sent her a message, and I go, all right, I'm in. She goes, it's probably full at this point. I'm like, really? And I'm like, okay. She sent a message to like the guy that was facilitating. He goes, we have one spot left. I'm like, oh, all right. Let me just pay for it. I need. But you know what? When I decide to do something, I'm pretty like it's gonna happen. So yeah, I made sure that it was set up and I was gonna book my ticket, make my travel plans, make sure I had that spot, really, really secured that spot. And it was go time then, and I was super scared, but I knew like I was going down there by myself, but I knew that they were gonna be there and I knew that, I had her and she was gonna be there and she was just gonna be my rock and like my just if I needed anything, she was just going to be there. And she was up until a certain point. But yeah, I went down there. I was scared out of my mind. There were so many people in that ceremony and they had all sat together for so many years. It was just like this group that all went all over the place and just sat always together. And they were so welcoming and I felt just loved and I felt held and I felt like it was going to be fine. And so it all began, and it was so hard. It
What
was
happened for
so,
you in
yeah.
that first ceremony? Like, do you remember like kind of what you went through? Because you're mentioning hard, like, of course, like, yes, people have so many
Yeah.
different experiences, but do you remember any like pearls from that first ceremony where you were like, wow, okay, this is going to change?
Yeah. It came on so strong. I mean, I heard from other people that they can have ceremonies that they call nada, nada. It's like you don't experience anything. No visions, no insights, no messages. It's just nada. That was definitely not the case for me. I went full speed ahead on that first night, and I just remember during the purging process, the a spirit, I don't know, it did feel like a feminine energy for sure, was just telling me I was like puking in the damn bucket. It's like I can see, like I'm like not wanting to purge. I'm like, no, not gonna, no, not gonna do it. Not happening. I'm just not,
That would
you
totally be
know,
me. That would totally be me. Just like, no, full control. I'm not doing this. Yeah, no.
So I'm like I'm fighting this experience the whole time, and I'm just making all these noises, and I'm hearing everybody around me like throwing up, right? Like they're actually going through it. Like everybody, it's like a domino effect, right? Once one person starts, it's like, rah! But here I am, just like making all the nasty noises, like, but like nothing's happening, right? And so the first kind of thought that comes through my mind and the message that I get is, Mija, like, just stop controlling the situation. You're not in control anymore. Just stop, just stop, just stop. That whole night, I never got sick. So it was a constant fight with whatever was taking over at that moment. It was just pull, like, just like, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna struggle. All right, I'm just gonna decide to struggle instead of surrender to the process. I'm just gonna struggle. Oh, this is my experience. This is what's gonna happen, right? And so that first night, other than my father coming through to me as a python, I could see his head. It's like it was a boa, not a python. Well, I don't know what the difference is. It was a boa. It was like a big snake. Is that a boa or is that a python? Is that they're the same thing?
I don't know. Good
It was a
question.
snake. All I know is like I have like these little snakes on my peripheral vision, like trying to like, distract me with whatever is on the peripheral, but I see what I'm supposed to focus on. And it's my dad. It's my dead father, right? And he's like, you know, I see his face and I see his body, but it's like this big boa or python, big snake, right? And I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna have to just follow him down this path. I'm gonna have to just like you can choose like what door you want to open here. Okay, door number one, door number two. I don't want to go down there. That's just too fucking hard. No, not happening. But I'm like, okay, part of me feels like this is safe and I really need to go down this door. I'm following him and he keeps turning back at me and he's like, keep coming, keep coming. I'm like slithering through with him and it actually starts to become a very beautiful experience. And I had some things that I was doing at that time that I wasn't proud of, just some bad habits, you know? And he just showed me what those bad habits could lead to, and that he was proud of me, and that I knew better, and that I could do better, and that he has faith in me, and that he has, you know, he just was like pumping me up in that moment. So I was, yeah, that was day one. That was night one where I just got like a really big learning experience from him. And I was so grateful for that. And it was the rest of the ceremony that evening was peaceful. Still a lot of like me trying to control the situation. I never fully surrendered at all that day, that night, day one at all. So that's what led to the absolute and utter hell of day two. And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad night one. And I was like, all right, I can do this. And we had 3 ceremonies in a row, right? So I'm like, I got to get up and do this again. I'm like, I could do this again. It wasn't that bad. That was kind of cool seeing my dad come through as a snake. Pretty cool. And so, what's going to happen on day two? And I was telling my sister-in-law, sharing a little bit with her, and I was like, is it normal to be scared? And she goes, oh my God, I've done 80 ceremonies and I'm still scared before every single one because you never know. You're not going to get what you want. You're going to get what you need, right? So I'm like, all right. So night two, and she sat next to me. Let's just back up. She sat next to me on the first day. So that was great because she was just like my rock right there. She was my protector. I would look over at her and you're not supposed to talk to anybody. And so, but I would look at her and just like I would see her and she looked so peaceful. She was like in a full meditative state for like 6 hours. I'm like, how is she doing that? Because I'm like flipping and flopping around, like I'm like constantly like fidgety and like getting up and going to the bathroom, coming back. Like I could not sit still. And here she is, this beautiful statue. So I get to the Maloka night two, and we have our like water bottles with their name on it. And I already had my bedding set up from the first day. So I knew what my bedding looked like. And I see my bedding, and it's on the opposite side of the room as my sister-in-law now. And I say to the shaman, I say, yeah, we were sitting next to each other last night. He was, yeah, you're not going to sit together tonight. I'm like, no, what is don't do that to me. I didn't say that at the time. I looked at my sister-in-law and she goes, I'm like, mommy, it was just like, so I think that was I don't like surprises like that. Like, and then especially something like that. Mm-mm. No, what do you do? Like, that is not cool to me. Like, I just thought, like, how dare you do that? Like, I was like kind of going into it a little, not angry, but just kind of put back a little bit. Like, I didn't like it at all. So, I took that first cup and then the climb into it wasn't a climb because I didn't choose to go there. The fall and the stumble into hell was just the start. It was horrible. It was the darkest night I've ever experienced in my life. I just didn't have any trust in anybody. I didn't have trust in myself. I felt so shameful. There was a moment where I had to leave the Maloka and I had to go outside and sit in the rocks and just lay in the rocks. And I just started getting ill. And I was laying in my own vomit. I couldn't really get to the restroom. I had help there. It was so difficult. And I just remember feeling like at that moment, like a slum. I saw everybody walking past me, um, and looking at me, and they couldn't engage. Like that's like a rule, you don't engage with somebody's process. And I just felt like just so like beaten down, man. Like, why am I going through this? This is like still no trust, still not surrendered, still like just so full of guilt and shame and just gross. And then my sister-in-law walked past me to use the restroom, and I looked up at her with these eyes like, please help me, And she said, like, basically, I can't help you, honey. Like, you have to do the work right now. And it was so fucking hard. It was so hard. It was so hard. It was horrible. But started coming out of it a little bit, started wearing off. And I remember being able to walk and being able to get up. And I got up and I went into the Maloka and I grabbed my backpack. Had my phone, which is like rule number one, don't bring your phone to a ceremony. Like, I don't know why I even brought a backpack. Like, I don't even know why I had it. I didn't have it the first night. It was just the weirdest thing why I had it the second night. I grabbed my backpack. I walked out of the ceremony and I left the ceremony. I was so mad. I was so angry. How dare my sister-in-law put me in this? How dare these people? Like, what are they doing? They're all demons. They're devils. Like, they're not, like, this is not what I need. This is not, like, why am I here? I actually called my husband that evening on the medicine, which is like really against, I mean, I had the shamans looking for me. I mean, we were still in the retreat center. I didn't leave the retreat center, but I left the area, which is like so not what you're supposed to do. And I'm sitting outside by myself near like this little pool, and I'm still in the medicine. I'm so fucking angry. And I call my husband and I'm like, I need to come home. I don't know. I can't believe they did this to me. This is horrible. I don't know what they gave me. They didn't give me ayahuasca. They gave me something horrible. It just was such an ego death at that moment. Like, I was like so mad, and I still hadn't surrendered. I still hadn't. Shaman comes out, finally finds me, and he's like, you have to get off your phone, honey. You have to get off your phone. I'm like, okay. He's like, you can't call loved ones on medicine. He's like, you can't worry them. I'm like, I'm not doing okay. I don't trust this. I don't. He's like, you have to come back to the ceremony. We're doing the Olympia. We're doing the blessing. I'm like, no, I'm not coming back to the ceremony. I need to go home. He's like, okay. He's like, if you need to come sit next to us, you don't need to come back into ceremony. Just come sit next to us. I'm like, no, I'm just going to sit right here. I'm like, he's like, all right. So I start hearing like another 30 minutes go by, and I'm just like all these thoughts in my head. I'm like, trust, surrender, anger, everything. And I just hear him start the blessing, start the blessing. And I don't know, something came over me. I picked up my backpack. I walked back into the ceremony room, head fucking down, man. So full of shame, so full of shame. And I just sat there. And it was right before he came to my spot to do the blessing. And he did the blessing on me. And I just sat there and my head was just down. And it was in that moment that I just fully, 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 fully surrendered. And I understood. And I understood that I had to go through that. I had to just let that part of me go. That wasn't serving me anymore. That anger, that distrust, that controlling, it just had to be shedded. And if I hadn't experienced that, then I would have never seen the light on the last day. but it was truly so horrible. But so beautiful, if that makes any sense.
Well, thank you for sharing that journey. I mean, I feel like it's so personal for you and gets so deep into kind of like your psyche. So I appreciate you sharing. And like since then, you've had many experiences with plant medicines. You and I have talked about your experiences with not only ayahuasca but Cambo and recently Bufo. I don't know if you are willing to share any of those experiences as well, because cut to now you're in this role where you're doing psychedelic assisted therapy. And so it was almost like you had to go through that journey to get you to your purpose, to your dharma, to helping other people. But I would love to start with kind of, what other plant medicines you've had experience with and what some of those kind of lessons were that you took away from those medicines.
Yeah, I sat in another ceremony with ayahuasca and this year with my husband. And again, it was extremely dark for me, but in a different way. Still a lot of controlling was happening. But the trust was, definitely a little lighter. And I feel like the more you can surrender to the process, the better, for me. I didn't quite understand really why they were always so dark. I didn't really get that. Because yeah, I mean, my husband had a whole different experience. Like he just did. Like he just turned into some warrior and like saw beautiful colors and visions. And I'm like, I'm
You're like,
jealous.
what?
But
You were a
with
warrior?
like some Mayan warrior. I don't know. It was like,
You're
okay,
like,
that's
damn, honey,
cool.
you were a warrior? I was like in hell.
I had to go down and put my hands on the ground. Help me, ground me, help. Um, yeah, so there was still so many lifestyle choices I could not give up. I could not give up. I thought I needed in my life, and I thought that would always be a part of my life. And I knew that they couldn't because they just weren't good for me. They just held me down, and they were not allowing me to fully be a true representation of myself and to really serve others. So there was still that one thing that I couldn't really shed, and nothing would let me shed it. So a dear friend of mine said, well, hey, listen, if you're having, have a good day at school. If you're having, you know, some darkness in these plant ceremonies, I want to introduce you to this guy in California. He's a Colombian shaman, very intuitive. He could do a private ceremony for you. And I'm like, well, a private, like what kind of ceremony? And he's like, well, it's called combo. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what that is. And he goes, well, it's like a purging agent. I'm like, okay, so no psychedelic? And he goes, no. I go, let me talk to him. So he really, his name's Jonathan, and he's here in California. He does private Yahe, Wachumo, Kambo, and Bufo ceremonies out of his home. He's in the Colombian lineage and has been practicing since he was like 17, 18 years old. So there's a long line of taitas and shamans in his family. And I spoke to him over the phone and I said, look, Jonathan, I'm like, there's just this one thing and it's just holding me down. It really is. And how do I get rid of it? And he's like, well, the reason why you're having such dark ceremonies is that this certain behavior, this certain thing that you're attached to, it's it's holding you down. It's a dark entity, and you will not be able to fully see the light in ceremony or within yourself if you do not release it. And combo is a great way to just bring it up, get it out, and get rid of it. So we did a full ceremony around this particular item, or thing. And so that combo ceremony, he's like, we're gonna go deep, sister. And I'm like, all right. So I've seen like, where they do like three openings on the skin, put the combo in those portals. He did 12 in that day. So yeah, let me just show you. There is,
Oh,
this
wow.
is like one, there's two, and there's three. So in one day, there was 12 portals he opened. We did one ceremony, he let me rest, and then he's like, we're gonna do it all over again. And I was like, fuck. But this was something I'd been holding on to for 25 years. So this is like, it was just, I was feeding those demons for that long. I was feeding them. And there's no way that I could release them without this massive, massive purge. So yeah, that happened. And it was beautiful because since then, that has not come up. It is not a part of my life. It's gone. I truly feel like it's really dissolved and it won't come back. And for that, I'm so fucking grateful. Like I'm so grateful because I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do now without having to release that.
And just out of like sheer curiosity, and also if we you want me to cut this out, that's fine as well. But like, what was that thing? What was that one thing that was like really
Yeah.
bothering?
Y- you might have to cut this out. I'll have to think about it. It was cocaine, actually.
Hmm.
It was cocaine, yeah. So that was a big part of my life for a really, really long time. It was a crutch. I was, it was horrible. So I have to think about cutting it out. We'll see. We'll
Okay.
see. It might help other people though. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, since then it's been over 2 months since, you know, that's been in my life. I'm so grateful. That's not happened for me in 20, 23, 24 years, I would say. So yeah, it's such a dark entity. And when we engage in that, we feed it. And that's how he put it to me is like, when you're engaging in that lifestyle choice, you're feeding the demons and they're just going to stay within you. So the combo was beautiful and it really helped me to release that.
For those of you who don't already know, my husband and I own a coffee company called Gay Head Coffee. And of course, we drink our own coffee every day, and it's some of the most flavorful and inviting coffee, especially with the nostalgia of coming from a can rather than paper or plastic packaging. But I'm biased, so check it out for yourself. If you're interested, head over to the show notes where you will find a link to order your coffee today from gayheadcoffee.com. That's GAYHEADCOFFEE.com. Thank you all for your support. It means the world to us as a small business.
and then he brought me in for Bufo and that was just last week. And that, that is undescribable. I don't even think I can put it into words, but I do know that I went to a place that was beautiful. And when I came back, I was extremely grateful for life, for connection, for my heartbeat, for breath, for everything. I was so, so, so grateful. But that's an indescribable experience. You just get blasted off into a whole nother realm that I guess they call the God molecule. I don't know. I completely and utterly lost sense of my surroundings, my body, my being. I don't know who I was and where I went. But I do know that there has been some beautiful like things that has manifested from that. So I'm still trying to figure it out, and it's okay if I don't figure it out. I've come to that where I don't need to figure everything out anymore. It just kind of presents itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, what a beautiful kind of culmination of ceremonies that you've been through. Um, Bufo is something I haven't heard a ton about. I know some people that have had experiences with Bufo, but I haven't done my own research on it. Um, so I'm a little less informed. Um, so is it something that you are smoking, or what is the actual process of the ceremony? If you can maybe like talk about what that looks like.
Yeah, there's two like different frogs in the Amazon. So Jonathan goes down to Colombia and actually gets the medicine from the Colombian Amazon and comes back and really helps to heal people here in the United States. And he, the one frog, they get. I mean, I'm not like super knowledgeable, but this is what my understanding is. There's a secretion that comes from their back, and they're able, without hurting the frog, take that secretion and make it into a paste. It almost looks like wasabi, and that's what they use for the combo. Now, there's another frog. That's a tree frog, actually, the combo. I don't know the name of it, but the Bufo alvarius is a huge motherfucking toad. And there's a gland like right here behind the ear that they secrete a liquid, and that's where the bufo comes from. And then there's a drying process, and then they'll put it in a sacral pipe, and then you smoke it. I will say it's just like it doesn't taste like anything. It's like almost like a vapor that I recollect, that I remember. And then within like seconds, like 2, 3 seconds, there is a peak of an ayahuasca journey with the visions, and then you're gone. I remember being able to lay back on my own. I remember doing that. And then I lost complete and utter sense of self, my body, where I was, who I was, and where I was going. It was, for me, black, just black. I remember hearing Jonathan. I remember the praying. I remember the fan. I don't know what they call those, but I remember that. And I don't remember anything else. And there has been things that have come up in the last week. Lots of dreams, lots of dreams, lots of dreams, lots of dreams. And they're so vivid. They're just messages. I mean, they say that this is in your system for a couple weeks, so just really pay attention to those dreams. Lots of journaling. Integration is going to be really huge, and Jonathan provides that support, which is beautiful, because I was baffled. I'm like, what just fucking happened, man? At least with ayahuasca, I remembered like pretty much everything. With Bufo, gone. But I do remember when I did start understanding that I was coming back from wherever I was, I felt such a deep sense of gratitude. And I asked Jonathan, I said, what did I do? Like, did I make any noises? Did I talk? Did I cry? I woke up with like dried stuff on the side of my face. So I knew there had to have been crying involved. Like, it was like, it's quick. This is like 15, 20 minutes. Done. Gone. So, a lot happens there, but I just don't remember what. And so he just said, all you did, he's like, you were very peaceful, and you were just doing this, and you were saying, thank you, 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 over and over and over and over. I'm like, wow, I don't remember that. But I knew there's a lot of healing. There's a lot of healing involved in that. They call it the God molecule, I guess. And so I can see that you really, really feel such a deep connection to yourself after that, to other people, gratitude for just being alive. And there's a lot of, that's a very strong medicine. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing as much as you can about it, because I know that a lot of people are kind of uninformed dabbling, right? So it's like it's nice to understand what that experience was like for you. I think everyone's going to have a different experience if this is something that they're called to, but it's interesting to understand kind of what your experience was and what your take was. You've also been working with a company called Feya. Tell me about that. Tell me about that journey. And it's obviously something that like we've been kind of leading up to this whole entire time. You've been called to this work. What are you doing with that company? And I'm just curious, so that the listeners can understand what kind of journeys that you're offering and maybe how they could find you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was able to be in a place of giving back in the healing world after my own journey, and you've heard just a portion of it. I opened up a company called Awaken with Jen Toro, and have been doing spiritual life coaching for those that are also struggling with life's transitions, and just being spiritually broken, and giving them and helping them with the tools to kind of go in that direction. And so, um, I came across Feya, and I just loved that. I'm like, I want to get into the psychedelic world as far as like, helping others. I love that they're a woman-owned company. Everyone is just such beautiful spirits, like every psychotherapist that's involved. But yeah, we're working with ketamine and oxytocin, and we're getting clients that, they've been through talk therapy for 10 decades, decades. I've heard stories of decades, and we're really outside the box when it comes to therapy. The ketamine and the oxytocin play a really big role in CPTSD and PTSD and childhood trauma, stuff that talk therapy just isn't going to get them through, and get them towards that place of healing. So ketamine and oxytocin have been really such a great component and great modality for that. And the therapy that also the other modalities we work with would be like breath work, um, inner child work, shadow work, hypnosis, hypnotherapy, um, you know, all of that. But the ketamine and oxytocin have done a lot, for our clients.
And so is this assisted therapy something where they go into a facility, they have, some sort of space where they're, um, you know, I guess doing and participating in these helpful medicines, and then you are assisting them in talk therapy and also integration? Is that the kind of synopsis of what you guys are doing at Feya?
Yeah, so we're offering the medicine on a microdose. Some places are, doing the really deep, 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 deep dives with infusions. These are actually ketamine lozenges. And so we're able to do sessions virtually and in person. And then the integration comes right after that. That's so important part of the piece of the puzzle. So this can, we're seeing a lot of our clients virtually. They're able to be in their own home and receive the low dose of the ketamine or the oxytocin, whichever one that we feel is the best fit for them. And then work through that in that session. And, there is like a good amount of talking that needs to be done before we even get to the psychedelic part. Can't just dive right into it. There needs to be a back history, and really learning what the clients are working through before we get to the psychedelics. But yeah, at that point there's definitely that trust between the psychotherapist and the client, and we know a lot of their story at that point. And so now it's time to do some more harder work, and able to bring up more things that maybe they don't remember, or maybe they just don't want to deal with, without the medicine. And the medicine really opens up their heart to surrender to what happened, and really find forgiveness and love in that experience, and realize that, there's a way to heal, and it's not the end all. There's hope.
Yeah, I appreciate I appreciate that this is your dharma and your path, and this is what you're focused on, because so many people um can use this type of therapy for good. And so I just appreciate that you're really being mindful especially with the microdose. I think that that's really it's an interesting perspective and a cool experience where you're not like, just blasting people off. It's kind of this like slow drip of like, oh, wow. Okay. So maybe you can change these little things, micro changes, microdose, micro changes, to help people heal. So appreciate that. Just in the, in the realm and the theme of this podcast is it's called Sacred Healing for a reason, because, my interests are trying to learn about all these different methodologies that are available that people might not know about. So where can people find both you, your company, Awaken with Jen, and then also Feya, and where are you most active? Social media, like if people want to reach out for services who are in California, and or you mentioned virtual services, where can people find you?
Yeah, so Awaken with Jen Toro, that's my website. And also same on Instagram. And we offer a lot of amazing things. I do the spiritual life coaching, and we had a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful breath work last night. I actually had it in my home. It was all females, all women. It just came together. There were some that had experience with breath work, some that were brand new to it. And then just closing the circle last night in ceremony, and just what everybody got out of it. Sometimes we don't need to go to psychedelics. Sometimes breath alone can do it. Man. And last night, the shares, I mean, just, it was incredible. So that really filled my cup and started my day beautifully. It's that beautiful ceremony. So yeah, offering breath work, spiritual life coaching. I do also workshops. I'll have some workshops coming up in 2024. The last one was on creating healthy boundaries. And we all, need refreshers on that, especially around the holidays, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so
Totally.
are you active on Instagram as well? Can people find services on there? Or are you posting regularly on your website, which is awakenwithjen.com?
Awakenwithjentoro.com.
Got it. So
And then
AWAKENWITHJENTORO.com.
that's right.
Okay,
That's
cool.
right.
So just to spell that out for people listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then also Instagrams, it's also Awaken with Jen Toro. So on the website, you'll find upcoming events. I do plan to do some upcoming breath works. They can be done virtually and in person. I mean, some people just are in that state where actually everything became virtual after COVID, right? Like so much stuff. I mean, you can do. It's just crazy. I know. But yeah, I've done some amazing virtual breath works in addition to coaching. Yeah. And then Feya Health, you can find at www.feyahealth.io. So if you're looking to dive into the psychedelics and really just do some deeper healing on that, that's definitely an offering.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and also sharing personal journey stories, because I know that that's really something that is like deep in your own soul. So I appreciate you sharing all those stories and also, bringing this to the world, because I think it's definitely something that can help a lot of people. So thank you. And yeah, I can't wait to dive deeper with you just as a friend and somebody who inspires me. So thanks for saying yes. And I can't wait to keep chatting with you over the next, year, 2 years, 5 years to see where everything leads. Because the journey is in process. So thanks for your time, Jen. Love chatting with you and hope to have you back on the show soon.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for your love and your light. I appreciate you.
Love you so much.
Love you too.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me.